The cabin was too quiet for a plane that high up like the air itself was holding its breath. First-class lights ran soft and gold glasses chimed a violin instrumental leaked from someone's headphones. And there I was, 40 minutes from the Atlantic, watching a grown woman with diamonds like ice chips lean into a black flight attendant and say, clear as a bell, "Your uniform is inappropriate. Say it louder," she told herself so everyone hears. That woman's name was Evelyn Whitaker. Her son Cole sat in 1A hood up headphones in the kind of billionaire who thinks quiet is humility. The attendant was Ava Coleman, 29 neat bun navy blazer pressed so sharp it could cut. She didn't flinch. Not yet. If this story were a movie, the camera would hang in the aisle, catching the way phones rose chin level, pretending to text while recording. It would slide past the cut crystal water, the purse that cost more than a car, the old rules in Evelyn's eyes. But it wasn't a movie. It was a Tuesday on Skybridge Air Flight 214 Seattle to Boston, and some of us were about to get an education. Ava didn't come from a world that forgives mistakes. West side of Detroit, one bedroom over a storefront church, a mom who mopped the elementary school floors by day and braided hair for neighbors by night. There's a rhythm to a house like that, a soundtrack of fans and cheap soap and the scrape of coins into jars. Ava learned early that presentation mattered. Shine your shoes, iron your shirt, call everyone sir or ma'am, and still expect to be questioned. She was the kid who returned library books on time, who kept a folder of recommendations in plastic sleeves, who washed and re-wore the same interview blouse until the cuffs frayed. Howard University turned her into someone who walked fast, spoke steady, and solved fires without raising her voice. Skybridge put her through 8 weeks of emergency drills and customer diplomacy. In class, they joked Ava could calm a burning engine with a clean napkin and a smile. Before this flight, she had ironed in the half-light, pressed her hands over the blazer twice, tucked her mother's tiny pearl pin on the lapel well within policy. She checked the manifest. Row 1, Evelyn Whitaker. Row 1A, Cole Whitaker, founder of Whitaker Labs, the AI company people use when they don't even realize they're using it. The plan was simple. Serve smile, keep the room inside her chest still. Evelyn boarded with 2 assistants and luggage that looked like it had never met a scuff. The gate agent bent the rules for her without asking which rules existed. In the air, she asked for sparkling water, sent it back for being too flat. Ordered champagne, tapped the rim of the flute when a bubble rose uneven. Her voice carried. Standards have cratered, she told the man across the aisle. In my day, cabin crew had a certain look. She didn't say which look. She didn't have to. Ava came by with a refill, and the turbulence hit polite. A tremor. Nothing. The liquid blinked over the lip and kissed the hem of Ava's skirt. "Oh, how clumsy of you," Evelyn said sweetly, like sugar poured over a blade. Ava dabbed it dry. "Not a problem, ma'am." She could feel the heat creep up her neck, that tingle that says a line just got crossed, and maybe you're the only one who noticed. Phones watched. The senior attendant, Gary, did what men like him sometimes do in rooms like this. He weighed the power of money against the weight of right, and for a beat too long chose money. "Let me see what Mrs. Whitaker needs," he told Ava in the way managers tell you they'll wade into the water without getting wet. The meal arrived, gluten-free, dairy-free, prepared exactly to request. Evelyn lifted the silver lid like it offended her hand. "This looks thrown together in a garage." Her gaze slid over Ava like a searchlight. "And that hair bun, it's sloppy. Fix it." Ava touched her bun on reflex. Not a strand loose. She nodded anyway, because you learn that nodding sometimes buys you a minute you can use later. By then the word choices got plain. "You people always think you can talk back," Evelyn said, not even lowering her voice. A man in 2D coughed, the kind that says, "I heard it too." You could feel passengers splitting into groups inside, those who wished the scene would end, those who felt something uncoil in their gut that sounded like enough. Ava stood her ground. "Ma'am, our uniforms are standard issue. They fit per measurements in our system. I'm here to make sure you're comfortable." "Then don't stand in front of me like that," Evelyn snapped, pushing herself into the aisle. "It's indecent for a family cabin." She gestured to a row with no children in it. Cole Whitaker took out one earbud. Then the other lifted his eyes like stepping out of a code base. "Son, tell them who we are," Evelyn said, satisfaction blooming now that her cavalry had arrived. Cole looked at his mother, then at Ava, took in the pearl pin, the faint wet mark drying on navy wool. He asked a passenger in 3C, "Are you filming?" The woman's hands shook as she handed her phone over. He watched, quiet jaw tight. He passed the phone back and said to his mother, barely above a whisper that carried to row 4 anyway, "What are you doing?" "Standing up for standards," she said. "Saving you from mediocrity. That uniform is wrong. She is wrong." Cole's face changed like a picture in soft light becoming sharp. "Her uniform is company standard, Mom. So help me understand what you're actually saying." Evelyn's diamonds on her wrist chimed against each other. "It fits differently and it's distracting. You see it." He sighed, not tired, more like a person letting go of a version of himself. "This isn't the first time. Remember Mrs. Cruz when I was 13? You accused her of stealing." Evelyn's lips thinned. "She stole. I found my bracelet in her bag." "I watched you put it there," he said. He didn't raise his voice. "That's how you can knock the wind out of a room with a sentence. You put it there because she said good morning to Dad and you decided that meant something ugly." The cabin breathed in like a chorus. Ava didn't move. She felt the strange calm that shows up after a storm when the trees are still bent but not breaking. Gary took a step forward. "Mr. Whitaker, if we can reassign service to another attendant, we'd be happy to." Cole didn't look at him. He looked at Ava. "Ms. Coleman." "I'm sorry," he said, using her name like it mattered, because it did. "What my mother said was disrespectful and rooted in something I should have called out 5 minutes ago. It's on me that I didn't." Evelyn gasped his name like a threat. He lifted a hand without looking at her. He turned to the cabin. "We let things slide because it's easier. I've done it in boardrooms. I've watched a black colleague get talked over and pretended it wasn't my fight because the money was on the line." He swallowed the words, catching, then going anyway. "That was cowardice. This is me not doing that again." He slid out of 1A. "Ms. Coleman, please use my seat when you need a break. I'll take whatever's open back there. It won't fix everything, but it's a start." He picked up his bag and stepped toward Coach. It's a long walk when the aisle is a runway and your mother's stare could set paper on fire. A man in row 5 said softly, "Thank you." Cole didn't nod. He looked like a guy who just realized thank you isn't the point. You think rich men don't sit in 28E? That day one did. Coach blinked like a different planet, knees tight, bag under seat, the whisper of people recognizing a face and trying to pretend they didn't. Cole opened his laptop and wrote an email with the subject line "overdue." In first class, the air shifted. Support found Ava like birds finding a current. A woman murmured, "You handled that with grace." A quiet business guy slid her a card. Low said, "I sit on the Skybridge board. Call if anyone gives you trouble." Gary came back to himself, or at least tried offering Ava a 15-minute break. "Take the seat," he said, the apology hanging half-formed between them. Ava sat in 1A for exactly 9 minutes and 32 seconds. She counted because sometimes that's how you stay steady. She texted her mom one line, "I'm okay," and put the phone away before the answer could come through. Across the aisle, Evelyn stared out the window like she could outstare the continent. For the first time all flight, no one tried to talk to her. Landing in Boston is always a little jolt of gray salt in the air lights that feel close to the ground. The announcement sounded extra careful. "Thank you to our first-class crew for their professionalism." The word hung like a small banner. At the gate, suits waited. Media waited behind them. The airline offered Ava paid leave while they reviewed the incident. Paid was new. Leave was not. A lawyer with Whitaker Labs called and said, "Ms. Coleman, if any retaliation hits you, we've documented everything you need." That sentence alone loosened something in Ava's chest she didn't know was knotted. In the terminal, the hashtag found legs. "I stand with Ava" spread from cabin crew at other airlines to people who had never flown first class in their lives, but knew what. You people meant because they'd heard it before in grocery stores and classrooms under someone's breath at a job interview. Skybridge stock wobbled, then steadied under statements about zero tolerance. Whitaker Labs trended for reasons marketing teams usually dream up gimmicks to chase and never catch. Cameras wanted Cole to speak. He didn't. He told the airline to give Ava privacy and told a trembling PR man, "Review what needs review. But if your conclusion doesn't match what everyone saw, we'll be talking again." You'd think the story ends there. It didn't. 3 months later, I watched Ava on a stage at Whitaker Labs headquarters. Not in a blazer that said, "Ask me for ginger ale," but in one that said, "Pull up a chair, we're changing things. Director of Culture and Inclusion." She told a room full of coders and executives about the quiet math of survival, how every day is a negotiation between being visible and being safe, about the way a uniform can be the same on two bodies and read as different stories depending on who's looking. She named the programs they'd committed to the hiring systems they were tearing apart and rebuilding the training that wasn't a slide deck, but a reckoning in rooms that had stayed comfortable too long. Cole sat in the front row next to his co-founder, a black engineer who'd built the core that made them rich. That man's name is Theo Garner. It matters you know his name. Evelyn didn't sit in that room. Change for people like her isn't a crowd event. It's homework. No one applauds. Cole gave her 2 options, so the rumor goes. Learn. Or our future conversations happen on holidays through the door. She chose the class. I don't know what she learned. I know Ava's mom moved into a place with a back porch and a good view of the sky. I know the airline wrote new passenger conduct rules that crews call the Ava policy. I know Gary sent a long email that started with, "I was wrong," and "keep reading if you want to," and Ava wrote back with a kind of grace you don't find on sale. Accountability, yes, but room for a person to do better next time. A year after that flight, I watched a small charter jet land at an airfield south of the city, sun on the tarmac like spilled sugar. The tail carried a logo I recognized even before the press release hit. Coleman Air, a training and charter company that hires and mentors crew from places the industry forgets. The first pilot down the stairs was a familiar face from Skybridge, smiling like the day finally belonged to him. Cole stepped out carrying his own bag. No entourage, no performance. Money teaches some people to float. It taught him to stand on ground without demanding it kneel. Here's the part that sticks under your ribs. That Tuesday, at 36,000 feet, a woman who was used to winning by force met a woman who only knew how to win by stamina. Entitlement screamed. Professionalism answered. Silence sat there wearing noise-canceling headphones and then finally spoke. It didn't make the world fair. It made one room honest. You can disagree with all of it. Maybe you think Cole did too much embarrassing his mother in public. Maybe you think he didn't do nearly enough, and that giving up a seat and writing an email is the smallest possible cost for someone like him. Maybe you think Ava should have told Evelyn to take her complaint and walk it off at the back of the plane. Maybe you know the price of that choice because you've paid it before. All I know is this. I watched a plane turn into a mirror and force people to look. I watched a uniform mean one thing at 10 a.m. and something else by landing. I watched old rules crack. I watched a room of strangers decide where they stood without a single vote. I watched a woman keep her dignity and then turn it into a ladder other people could climb. And I haven't looked at an aisle the same way since. So tell me, if that aisle were in front of you, if you heard those words, "you people," in a place where it's supposed to be neutral, what would you do? Step in, look down, pretend you didn't hear. Do you think calling out family in public is a betrayal or the beginning of love growing up? Drop your take in the comments, argue it out. Tell the story of a time you saw power bend or refused to. Like the video. If it shook something loose, subscribe. If you want more real stories told plain, and hit the bell so the next moment finds you ready. Because sometimes all it takes is someone willing to say, "I see it, and I won't let it slide."